Hi everybody and welcome. My name is Keegan Murphy, National Training Manager here at Diode LED and Lucetta DL. Welcome to our quarterly virtual specifier training for Q3 2025. Let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about our wet location product overview with our wet location spec products and a little bit about what IP rating or ingress protection is. So what is IP rating? An IP rating, also known as Ingress Protection Rating or International Protection Rating, is a way of showing the effectiveness of electrical enclosures in blocking foreign bodies such as dust, moisture, liquids, and accidental contact. It's very important that you have the correct IP rated product for different environmental conditions. So what exactly does an IP rating look like? First, you have, of course, the letters IP for ingress protection. That first number is going to be your protection against solids, such as dust. That second number is going to be your protection of liquids, such as water. And then that third option that most people don't know about is an optional rating, usually with a letter, such as pressure. Sometimes, and when a number is replaced by an X, that's just showing that a manufacturer needs to do some more ratings or that they haven't really done yet, listed on the specification sheet. So we'll talk about, just kind of give an example of something that starts with a 6. So 6 talks about solids, okay? That first number talks about solids. So an example is a 6 is dust tight. So that means there's no ingress of dust. There's complete protection against the contact, and the way they would test it is taking a vacuum to it up to 8 hours based on airflow. So if a product is IP60X, that means that it's completely dust tight. That second number, that second letter, whatever it is going to be in that IP rating, is liquids. So in this case, we'll talk about the example of water. So an IPX5, 5 just indicates that it is protected against water jets. So water projected at a nozzle, and then it gives you kind of some of the directions and sizes against the enclosure. When we start to get into those higher ranges, it'll be further pressure with water coming at different angles. And then again, that third optional letter or number, that's just talking about things like wire, high voltage apparatus, devices in motion, devices standing still, certain types of weather condition. We don't really get into this when it comes in terms of linear low voltage lighting, but just know that if you see it out there, this is kind of the optional extra rating that it has. So first we're going to start with IP65. Most of the time when you see an IP65 product, this is considered watertight. So on the right, I have some of the product offerings that we offer here at Diode LED and Lucetta DL. And then again, just the reminder of what an IP65 product entails. So again, no ingress of dust, complete protection against contact, and water projection by a nozzle against the enclosure from any direction. Okay, so most of the time when we talk about these types of products, you'll notice on the right, I have SMD, that's just our standard surface mount diode, or our COB chip on board silicone type product. We have various product families that have IP65 tape light that is protected against water and dust. You're probably familiar with our Blaze X, Streamlight, Valent X, and then on the Lucetta side, our Celeste. Neon Blaze, that product that was meant to kind of mimic line voltage neon, that's an IP65 product. Our new LINAIRE Flex, we have it available in an IP65 and IP67, so we'll talk about the differences there. And then some of our more outdoor rated options that are for like commercial use, INFINILINE, the BROADWAVE, and then even some optical control. So we'll kind of go through a little bit of the specs on each of these, and then we'll talk a little bit about what makes them different and some of the unique points that I would kind of recommend when you guys are looking at specs or specifying product. So when we come across Blaze, the unique thing about Blaze is, yes, it was one of the OG Diode LED products. It's available in a 12 volt and 24 volt platform, and you have those 3 lumen outputs, the 100, 200, and 300. Okay, the CRI is just your typical standard 90 plus, and your warranty is 7 years, which is not too bad for a wet location product. Now the cut points are going to differ. When you get into that 100 lumen output on the 12 volt side, you got about a 2-inch cut point. When you get into the 200 lumens, you got about a 1-inch cut point. Now for the 24 volt, 100 lumen output, you get at about that 4-inch cut point. And then when you get into that 200 and 300 lumen output, you get about 2-inch cut points. So just something to keep in mind. Again, The Blaze family available. A lot of you have seen it in the dry location. Just know it's also available in that wet rated IP65 version. Blaze X, very similar to Blaze. Available again in a 12 and 24 volt platform. You got the 3 lumen output options. The main difference is you have a 12-year warranty and you have that 95 plus CRI. Cut points are still going to be relatively similar. Again, just know this is kind of that next performance level up when it comes from Blaze to Blaze X. Streamlight, this has become a very popular product just because of its 180-degree beam angle spread and its natural diffused pour of phosphor. We got the high output and lower output lumen output options. You still got that 90 plus CRI and 7-year warranty similar to Blaze. It's really great product. It's still that 8mm profile. You add a little bit of the extra size when you add that silicone jacket in, but another kind of great performance advantage option. Leveling up to our more higher output tight pitch tape light, you get the Valent wet location. So the unique thing about this is now you get that 200 lumen or 500 lumen option. So when you go up in performance, you get higher, brighter lumen output. You still get about a 2-inch cut point with a 90 plus CRI and that 7-year warranty. You'll notice on the right side, I kind of have some different photos of the wet location tape light. It's very similar to a dry location form factor with that silicone jacket. And then I'm going to switch over to our top-down camera. You can see some of the components I have. Right here, this is kind of what it looks like, right? The silicone jacket wrapped around that tape light. And then we do sell other accessories if you're going to be cutting and capping this in the field. So these are the closed end caps on the very end of the run, and then these are the open end caps with the wire strain relief. We also sell, of course, your wet location non-acidic silicone-based adhesive too. Just wanted to kind of point out, again, this is what a tape light dry location looks like inside of a wet location IP65 jacket. Sweet, and then when we go up in performance tiers, you'll notice our Valent X. Right now, we only have the Valent X available in a 500 lumen output option. You're gonna get that 95 plus CRI. The cut points are gonna be a little bit better than the other tape light options that we've talked about, and you're gonna get that 12-year warranty. So if you need something with a little bit better CRI, gamut fidelity, something that has a little bit better longevity with that higher warranty, this is a great option. And then on the Lucetta side, we have our Celeste wet location. This is again a 12-year warranty. This is where we get into the 98 plus CRI with the true single-step macadamia lip. So really good binning, really good gamut fidelity, your saturation and your hue really top notch. You can see we kind of have an image of it on the black body curve, and it's really hard to get that crisp CRI, the crisp light quality, out of a product that has a type of silicone jacketing over it. And this, again, we have 3 output options. You got your low output 150, that 300, and then that 500 lumen output. Now, the thing that kind of confuses a lot of people, or a lot of people are used to, is you can technically put an IP65 wet located tape inside of an aluminum channel and call it a wet location fixture. Now, this is not something we typically recommend, but this is what we see a lot of the times when quoting. If maybe you don't have the ability to quote an IP67 or an IP68 product, maybe it doesn't fit, maybe it's just not in the budget. So you'll notice on this screen, all of the green channels that I'm calling out here, IP65 wet located tape light will fit inside of these channels. Now you're gonna have those end caps, meaning the little wet location overmold end caps, they will also fit inside this channel, but they're also gonna provide a little bit of a dark spot. And I just wanna be completely upfront about that, and I'm gonna show you about that in a second. Those channels in the yellow, those also technically can fit our IP65 rated wet location tape light. The end caps though hang on the outside of that fixture. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're ever trying to specify a fixture with a wet located tape light inside of an aluminum extruded channel. So what I mean by that is I'm going to pull up a standard 16mm channel, surface mounted channel, right? We have that little raceway for those hidden integrated mounting clips. I'm going to take a wet location tape light, in this case our Valent X 500 wet location. And again, I just have these little metal backings for display purposes that typically wouldn't come in here. You'll notice it is a snug fit, but that tape light does fit in that aluminum channel. Now, again, we can quote it this way. It's not ideal because it's not aesthetically pleasing, and I'll show you why. Plug this in. It's kind of hard to tell on here. Let's see if I can get this to focus. So see this end cap? A lot of the times if the channel doesn't fit, the overmold will have to stick out. But again, these certain channels can totally fit this. The problem is you get this dark spot right here where that silicone jacket is. Again, the camera kind of washes it out. But a lot of the times people are still quoting this as a wet located fixture. Again, not ideal, but technically it does work. And so we're going to talk about why we can kind of switch to a more performance-based IP67, IP69 product. So just keep that in mind. These are the channels that kind of fit that wet located tape light. Neon Blaze, again, another IP65 rated product. Now IP65, if you're putting this on the outside, this technically is UV stabilized. However, I would go with something that is IP67 or IP68 or 9 that has a better UV stabilizer. Over time, this will yellow and crack, and we've all seen it all over those commercial jobs everywhere. It almost looks like rust. You can kind of run your hand up and down and peel it off. That's because they're painting on a type of UV stabilizer. Again, if it's an indirect view outside, it's still going to have better protection against a dry located tape light. Now this was kind of the first of its kind wet located product that you could actually cut and jump in the field. So it's available again in a side and a top bending profile. You can see the spec sheet is kind of extensive, has that 2-inch cut point. The really big selling point of this is at that lower lumen output. It has that 65-foot max run. And then when you get into the higher lumen output, that 250 to 300 lumen range, you get about a 16-foot max run. It has a 5-year warranty. Again, this is the product that mimics that traditional line voltage neon, and I'll plug it in here and show you guys what I'm talking about. It is very noticeable. A lot of people have seen a product similar to this. This is it in the red profile. People really like Neon Blaze for the fact that you can get static colors. The side bend, and you'll notice on the side I actually have it in a spine channel. Okay, and then the top bend, I'll just pull up here, not plugged in. Top bend, again, typically a shorter, fatter profile because you have the tape light mounted on the bottom side shining up. Side bend, a little skinnier and shorter because you have the tape light on the side, mounted on the side, shining out and through. So that's kind of why the two profiles look slightly different. Moving on from Neon Blaze, we released LINAIRE Flex. Now the LINAIRE Flex is one of my favorite product families, just for the fact that it's more architectural in nature, but you still kind of get the benefits of that Neon Blaze look. It's still silicone based, and it is IP67, and we'll talk about that in a second when done in the factory, but you'll notice for that top and side, I kind of have that little schematic diagram. This is a product that you can also cut and cap in the field and bring power back into. So anytime you cut LINAIRE Flex, that's why it says field cut, it's IP65. And then of course our micro side bend, you'll notice those little overmold end caps. That is almost like a mini version of Neon Blaze. Again, that's also going to be IP65. Some of the selling points of LINAIRE Flex is it just has a better CRI, higher R9 values. Again, it's UV stabilized in the liquid form. I was talking about a lot of the time our competition will UV stabilize something by painting over a UV stabilizer after the product has cured. Injecting it at the liquid form though allows it to last longer in the sun. And then on most of the profiles, besides our micro side bend, the unique benefit and selling point is that you can cut it anywhere. So there are no cut points, okay? We call this free cut, just something to keep in mind. I'll show you guys a couple of the profiles that I'm talking about. So this is my favorite version of the LINAIRE. I know you'll hear me say I have a lot of favorites, but the LINAIRE Flex family is my favorite by far. This is the micro side bend, super small in profile. It comes with mounting clips and even a rigid channel. I'll plug it in for you. I really like it because it's great for millwork, step lighting, and stairs. It offers about 80 delivered lumens. So it looks brighter than that in my opinion, but again, fully diffused, very flexible. You can backlight signs, you can backlight mirrors, has about a 1-inch bend radius, really cool product, still IP65, and you can tell because of these little overmolded end caps. Okay, and then I'm gonna show you, this is our top bend LINAIRE Flex. Now the reason I'm showing it to you with these end caps is because this is the field cuttable field connector. So anytime, again, you cut this in the field, it's IP65 versus I'll show you what an IP67 version looks like. So I'll plug this in. Now you'll notice you still get really nice light illumination even through these clear translucent end caps. Okay, now the main thing that makes this different from Neon Blaze is the Neon Blaze end caps were kind of bulky. We call them over molded because you're molding it over the silicone jacket, right? They don't really lay flat. This is one of the lowest profile field connectors I have seen for a silicone-based product. You can see it's very low profile compared to something like Neon Blaze. So again, anytime you cut LINAIRE flex, IP65. Moving on is our INFINILINE. This is one of our only line voltage products, so there's no drivers needed. Get that 90 CRI, it has 164 max foot run. So a lot of the times when this is used on commercial or multifamily jobs, you know, maybe the contractor doesn't want to run power drops every 16 or 30 feet. So this is kind of a product that they love to put in coves or on the eaves of buildings. It has about a 300 lumen delivered output, and it was one of the first products that was UL listed both as a hardwire and plug-in option. There's various mounting clips, there's a various mounting channel. A lot of you have probably seen something similar to it. I'll just show you it very quickly on the screen. Again, not diffuse, has that traditional, it looks just kind of like, let's see, the wet located tape light we were talking about with those over molded end caps. This is the the plug-in version of it. The one downside of this product is it has about a 7-inch cut point and it can only be cut in the field because it is a line voltage product. So just keep that in mind when speccing it, but it is an option. And then moving on from INFINILINE, we have our BROADWAVE. This is just a tiny little, essentially wall washer that's meant for outdoor rated applications. The unique thing is it's a 120 line voltage product, but it has a built-in DMX decoder. Comes in 2-foot, 4-foot sections, has a specified beam angle to kind of wash that outside of the building. Also comes with a rotary angle and various mounting clips. You can daisy chain 30 fixtures because it is line voltage. It has a 5-year warranty. This is a really great way to get in on small commercial jobs that are 2 to 4 stories where you want to provide some type of wall graze. Now the big thing is this is not meant for skyscrapers, so sometimes we have people wanting to specify this for 30-foot buildings. Definitely do not recommend that, but again, those smaller commercial jobs. And I'll just kind of show you guys on the camera kind of the profile and the size of it. So let me zoom out on this. Again, line voltage, so you can daisy chain these with the power and the data. It has a built-in DMX decoder. This is it on the front, and then I'll actually show you a video next of it actually on the outside of our HQ building. So here's our 2-story building located in Reno, Nevada. We have our elemental and diode green on the outside. Again, this is shining up about 2 stories and it can go even a little further, but we have the eave on the top of our building that kind of cuts it off. And again, we have one little Wi-Fi wall mount controller that can completely change the colors of these because it's an RGBW fixture. And they're spaced out every other pillar along the outside of our building. So kind of unique application. Again, an IP65 product. Moving on, last but not least is our OBD Flex optics. A lot of people are familiar with these. I always equate them to like little octopus tentacles because they're individual diodes that have a specified beam angle, either in a 20-degree or asymmetric. 5-year warranty, an improved max run from our previous version of this product. 2 different lumen outputs, that's 90 plus CRI. This is a great outdoor grazer or wall wash. We see it on eaves of buildings, washing up stone walls, retaining walls, that kind of thing. So again, an IP65 rated optical control. Now moving on to IP67. So IP67, again, you still have that same dust height rating, no ingress of dust. But now when we talk about that 7, that second number, this is going to have better protection in water. So technically an IP67 product, you can immerse the product up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. There's going to be no harmful effects on the product. So if you think about it, most iPhones are actually IP67, or most Apple Watches are IP67. So if you ever dropped it in, say, 3 feet of water and you pick it up right away, that's why it continues to work. So we have a couple different options when it comes to this. We have the FARO and EMERY wet location, and we have, again, our factory assembled LINAIRE flex, not our field cut LINAIRE flex, our factory assembled. So first we're going to talk about the EMERY and FARO wet location. This is, again, available both on the Diode LED and Lucetta DL product line. Right now we have 8 product portfolios, or 8 product in this product portfolio, and we're coming out with more. You'll notice some of the channels that you've been familiar with are architectural series channels, the A series. We have a recessed, we have our legacy channels like our slim, square, and 45, and then we even have a mud-in option. So this is both a dry location version, and you can quote it in a wet location. The wet location is going to be IP67. Okay, 5-year warranty. It's more fixture forward, built in America. Light engine of 95 plus CRI, high 9R values. Just a 24 voltage. And let me switch back to this. I'm going to show you guys on the screen real quick kind of what I'm talking about. For those of you familiar with our AlphaTECH X, what we're doing is we're essentially potting this fixture with the AlphaTECH polyurethane in a rigid channel, okay? So this is, again, more fixture forward. When we talk about components when it comes to linear low voltage lighting, sometimes people are like, it's a little overwhelming because you have tape light, connectors, drivers, accessories, channels. This is more fixture forward. And what I mean by that is when you go on the spec sheet, you follow this little tree map or chain of command. You type in exactly what you want. I want it to be this long. I want the wires to be this kind, this color. I want the mounting to be like this. It's going to pop out one skew, and that's exactly how it's going to be built. So again, all this is a hardened polyurethane. So this is an IP67 rated product. I'll plug it in for you guys. You still get very nice delivered lumen output. We have a couple different output options. This is the recess version, so you can see the little flanges. Again, and this is non-field serviceable. That's the one thing you don't get with an IP67 Plus product is you cannot cut this in the field because it is completely encapsulated and watertight. So we have various different versions. Again, this is the recess version. I'll pull over this guy. This is our 45 degrees, so you can see that little raceway if you want to angle that fixture at a 45 degree or even get rotating mounting clips. And then we have our A1 fixture. Again, this is the integrated wire management system, both for wires and inset mounting clips. So again, this is the EMERY or the FARO, depending on what product line you're talking about. Now, we're going to move on to factory assembled LINAIRE flex. Now, we already talked about field cut LINAIRE flex. Again, this is the product that when you cut it, it's IP67. But the main selling point of LINAIRE flex is you're going to have that better IP rating, so it's meant to last a lot longer in the more rigorous conditions outside. Okay, so I'll flip over to the top-down camera again. We already showed you what those connectors look like on the LINAIRE flex top bend. If we cut and cap and seal it in the field, though, you'll notice you don't have those overmolded end caps. You have very nice integrated flat end caps. The cool thing about this, too, is for your contractors who are installing this product about every 2 feet, it tells you polarity, the profile you have. It's free cut, so again, there's no cut points on this. I could cut this anywhere I want. And then it just kind of gives you a little bit of the specifications on this. So again, I'll go ahead and plug this in so you can see what it looks like turned on. You can see how you get that nice end-to-end illumination. Again, this is the side bend profile. Another option is our 360. So you get 360 degrees of light. This is kind of the replacement of like rope lighting, called Tube 360. Wonder Woman's Lasso of Truth, if anyone's into movies. Again, this is a fully encapsulated IP67 product. And I'll talk a little bit about the differences in the profiles here. So we got the 360, we got that traditional top bend and side bend, and then the more unique ones are that mini 3D and the 3D bend. Now these are unique because you can bend this product when it's in a 3D form factor on both axes. So just keep that in mind. It's still architectural in nature. There's no dome top, just that flat 120 degree beam angle. Again, when we factory seal this, these 5 profiles, it's IP67. Last but not least is our AlphaTECH X and encapsulated linear lighting. Again, still that same dust rating, that 6, it's still dust tight, but now we're going to jump from 7 to 9. So when you have a 9, that means it can withstand high powerful temperature water jets. Okay, so it's protected close range against high pressure. You have water being thrown at it from every direction, and you can also technically power wash this product. So think of things that when it comes to commercial buildings or even industrial type of settings, or even like car washes, okay, hospitality where you're having a lot of foot traffic and you're needing to wash down that fixture or that outdoor space. This is a product that's meant for the most rigorous of conditions. Not only is it meant for the rigorous conditions, and what I mean by that is it's saltwater, chlorine, bromine rated, NSF rated, but it is also using our Valinex tape light on the inside of that polyurethane encapsulation process, meaning you get a 95 plus CRI with high R9 values. When you're specifying this for a pool spa, or fountain, you need that UL676 rating. That's something we can also do. It just has a special SJTW wire coming out of it, and it has a special PVC channel. Still get a 5-year warranty when used traditionally, or if you're using it in the deep cold like a freezer, because it can go negative 40 degrees all the way up to 180 degrees, has a 2-year warranty. And if you're using it in a sauna, it has a 1-year warranty. You'll notice on the very bottom of the slides, I have a photo kind of showing the top bend and side bend. We put a lot of labels over this product because this is one of the first flexible products where the top bend and side bend have the same profile, meaning they look exactly the same. Now, of course, you bend it the incorrect way, even though it's rated for all of these high environment settings, you can break it. So that's why it's very important when you're installing this that you bend it only on the axis it's meant to be bent on. The high output version is available in our top bend along with a low output version that has a slightly longer max run. So that 26.25 feet, that's what we can do in a continuous run. And then if you're daisy chaining them, you can get a 55-foot max run. And then in that higher lumen output, that 400 lumens, you get a 20-foot max run or 30 feet when you're daisy chaining them. I would say most of the products or projects we quote with the AlphaTECH, it's top bend, high output. And then if you're wanting that RGBW, again, this is using our Valin RGBW at its base, 16-foot max run, various different wire options for the static white options. And then side bend, you have a 250 lumen, 16-foot max run or a 20-foot max run when you're daisy chaining them. Now you'll notice on the spec sheets, the side bend actually is higher lumens per foot. And people are always confused, or not higher lumens per foot, sorry, higher watts per foot, but lower lumens per foot. And people always think it's a mistake on the spec sheet. That's not a mistake. Because the tape light is bent or mounted on the side, it needs a lot more power and lumen output to shoot through that polyurethane, reflect back up to the top. So that's why if you ever see a side bend product that's higher watts per foot but lower lumens per foot, it's because it's essentially working harder to produce a consistent, nice, even delivered lumen output. So I'll show you a quick schematic of the AlphaTECH as well. Let me pull this up. This is our top bend product. It's in a channel, a PVC channel with a bottom wire mounted entryway. Again, this is top bend, so I can pull this out. You can see the product right here. Still fully dimmable. We get that question a lot. You know, that's just going to be dependent on the control and the driver you're using. And then this is our RGBW top bend product as well, just with a little inline controller. Nice saturated blue. Ooh, ah. Blue is my favorite color, so I just leave it on there. Again, AlphaTECH or encapsulated linear lighting. I wanted to put this little blurb because sometimes people can still get confused of like, what IP rated product do I use in certain applications? Tokics inside kitchens or bathrooms, I definitely recommend at least a dry location tape light with a channel and lens. Hopefully everyone's using a channel and lens. There's many, many benefits of using a channel and lens. If you're not though, you should at least go with an IP65 wet located tape light. Because when you think about all the water and the cleaning and the steam and all that stuff, you want that product to last a little bit longer. So at a very minimum for toe kicks, I would recommend an IP65 rated product. For showers, when you're talking about niches or coves, I would do an IP67 rigid or flexible fixture, similar to the EMERY or FARO or the LINAIRE Flex. And if you're ever talking about a steam shower, the only product we have that's rated for that would be our IP69 AlphaTECH X. If you're just doing anything generally in a bathroom, again, I would recommend at the very least an IP65 rated product or a dry location tape light inside of a channel and lens. Retaining wall is something that's going to be outside. If you're shining it down, meaning it's going to be protected in a little valance. An IP65 or IP67 product typically would last long, but if it's shining up, meaning it's going to be exposed to the elements in the sun, I would opt for an IP67 or an IP69 rated product. When you're talking about pergolas, meaning they're going to be shining down, providing general illumination, maybe ambient or even task lighting, they're protected, again, an IP65 or IP67 product, like LINAIRE Flex or the EMERY. We do a lot of hand railings. We see a lot of IP65, just silicone tape light in that jacket. We see a lot of that shining down for hand railings. Again, if you're putting something in a sauna, the only product we have rated is our IP69 AlphaTECH and encapsulated product. Anything that needs that UL676 rating for pools, spas, and fountains, IP69, it's going to be that AlphaTECH X or that encapsulated lighting. And then if you're ever doing facades or eaves of buildings, if it's shining down, protected, again, not in direct sunlight, IP65 product or IP67. A couple tips and tricks at the very bottom. Again, check any local pertinent code or necessary UL listing for your application. Check with the manufacturer for questions regarding testing, longevity, warranty, and install. We have dedicated environmental testing machines here at Diode LED and Lucetta DL to test these products to see how far we can test their limits, essentially. We have a machine that can test 150 feet of depth in water. We can test the heat, we can test the jet, simulating jets and water. So just let us know if there's a more rigorous testing you need, and we can kind of help create a new product or take an existing product and see how far we can take it. When in doubt, take into account sun exposure and UV. The sun is just very harsh on a lot of things. Take into account weather conditions year round. You know, if you're doing a dock or maybe an outdoor rated area in the Midwest, you need to take into account that it can get negative 50 degrees all the way up into 100 degrees in the summer. That intense temperature change, just keep that in mind. Mounting conditions. Are you going to have enough space in that architectural detail to hide the product? Does it need to have a rotating clips? Is the valance going to be big enough? If I'm mounting it upside down, is gravity going to start pulling on it? Therefore, do I need to use a type of silicone adhesive as well as a channel? These are all the things to kind of keep thinking about when contractors come to us and when specifying the product. And then last but not least, when in doubt, always go up an IP rating to ensure the product lasts long. You know, a lot of manufacturers can come out with a product and call it wet rated or watertight, but what we do differently is, yes, we could also do that. We want that product to last longer. That's why we have the longest warranties in the industry. We want to come to market correctly with these products. So when in doubt, go up an IP rating. You might pay for it a little bit more up front, but you want a product that you know is going to last long. We always have this series called Why It Matters. So if you are ever trying to explain why these kind of complex topics should matter to either homeowners or your customers, why CRI matters. We're about to release why TM30 matters. This is a good little 3 to 4 minute digestible video of why Ingress Protection matters. So just kind of keep that in mind. Again, if you guys ever have any questions that are project related, best to send them at info@diodeled.com or info@lucetalighting.com. We can help you with recommending the right product for the right applications, the right IP rating for the right applications. So with that, again, if you have any questions, feel free to email in, let us know, but I really appreciate the time that you guys have taken to kind of explore the wet location options that we have to offer. If you guys have any other recommendations of things you want us to talk about when it comes to our quarterly virtual specifier trainings, our reel-to-reel videos, any of the other video series that we have, again, please just send those in to us at info@. Other than that, thank you for joining me and have a great day.